Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Destination Video Music, August 1st, 1981, the podcast. I go by the name of Ford Lee, and I'm happy to introduce you here to Robby. How
Hi,
are you, Robby?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you. Very excited to start this, and this is episode 2, so you're very special. You're one of the day ones, so it's very exciting. Always got to remember the day ones.
Yeah,
So,
I'm very excited and very happy to
yes.
be here. Grateful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for reaching out. So, all right, let's take it back. Did you witness MTV's launch on August 1st, 81? And if not, when did you first get MTV approximately?
Okay, so I honestly cannot say that I witnessed the launch. Um, okay, so I mentioned this to you before we started the interview, but I'll
Sure.
recap. So my family had just moved into a new house, and the new house had this thing that nobody had heard of called cable TV. And for the most part, cable TV wasn't even all that exciting because all we cared about were the major networks. Um, that being said, if you kept flipping the channel long enough, you would eventually get to this station that was playing music videos. And that was cool.
Sure.
That that was something new and something that my friends and I were like, well, wait, what's this? Um, so August 1st, I can't, it would have been summer. I was probably out playing with my friends. First of all, let's establish I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect age. Perfect age for the first
Yeah.
MTV viewing.
So I was 12 years old. I would have been out playing on August 1st. However, by fall, I had older sisters and they were in high school
Hmm.
and they were really talking about, hey, what's this thing going on called MTV? And there's that kind of trickle down from like whatever the high school kids think is cool, it starts to trickle down into the junior high school. And I was getting ready to go into junior high school, and I just remember there was a buzz about MTV. You got to check out MTV. There's like these videos, you know, and so then we started watching it, and um, you know, it was a whole new universe for us because at the time we were leaving the 70s, we were leaving classic rock, we were leaving disco, we were coming into something new. And my friends and I were kept hearing this term, new wave,
Hmm.
new wave. Okay, well, what is new wave? We didn't really know what new wave really was. But then we started seeing these artists on MTV. And then the little bells were going off in my head. Oh, wait, they must be new wave.
The new wave.
Ah,
Yeah.
new
Yeah.
wave.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it was it felt like something exciting and new was happening. And it was a little portal into a different, it was almost like stepping into the future. It
Sure.
felt like walking into the future, especially because of the fact that England and the bands from Britain, they they still seem so far away from us. The world was not like it is now, where everything is so small.
Hmm.
They seem so far, far away, that to be able to look and watch, the Split Ends and Elvis Costello, um, and even, Video Killed the Radio Star, the Buggles, which I don't know, I don't even know if they were American or from England. I don't know. Nobody knew anything about that band,
Right.
you
Right.
know? And they did
Right.
just kind of come and went, they came and went with that song.
Hmm.
I mean, that was
Hmm.
kind of their one hit wonder.
Hmm.
But it was so um, when you look at those artists, like the singer for the Buggles had the glasses, weird glasses. And Elvis Costello had glasses that were kind of like Buddy Holly. But we hadn't seen artists wearing glasses since Buddy Holly.
Right.
I mean, you went all the way through the late 60s and 70s and nobody wore glasses. Well, Elton.
Lots of long hair. Lots of
Yeah.
long hair, and
Elton
right.
wore glasses,
Hmm.
but suddenly we're seeing guys with short hair with like kind of funny looking faces that were wearing glasses and this didn't happen in 81, but when the Talking Heads came out with Same as It Ever Was, and David Byrne was wearing his kind of little nerdy glasses.
Yeah.
It was like these were different artists that we were not used to seeing. In a lot of ways, the guys were more real because they weren't looking like 70s porn stars. They were they were it was a totally different vibe. And even the women, like I actually made some notes, you know, like um like Pat Benatar. She was the second video that they played.
Hmm.
Um and when they show her in that video, and I do remember Pat Benatar from that time, like she had kind of short hair and she had like heavy 80s style makeup and either vinyl or leather pants. And we'd not seen anything like that, you
And
know?
to be 12 years old, you know,
Yeah. No, immediately, like, what are these feelings I'm feeling?
figuring
You know?
everything out, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
by the time you got to Blondie, and Rapture and Heart of Glass,
Hmm.
I mean, it was like the vibe coming off of Blondie was sexual,
Mm.
and it felt very like, oh wait, should I be watching this? You know,
Yeah.
like when you're 12 years old, it
Yes.
felt like a little slightly dangerous almost.
Sure.
Um, and by the way, when they put out Rapture, Blondie Rapture, she's rapping over that song. So that was we were really getting a real taste of the future through what was coming through our little tiny old set, family TV set.
And three-quarters of, if I can just interrupt you for a second, three-quarters of every one that you just, said, all of that happened on day one. I
Right,
mean, there's tons of footage of
right.
day one, and just knowing that there was all that mix. And I want to, you went ahead and you answered some things that I was going to ask you, which is good. But I wanted to take it back just a little bit if I can, because I think it's important to, you mentioned everything changing. And I think it's important. I'm assuming you were always a music person. It sounds like you've been a music person.
Well,
Um,
I started playing piano at 9, and by 12 I was obsessed with
yeah.
music.
Well, I mean, what kind of music were you? And this is a very important question because of how things changed, but what kind of music would you say you were into prior to MTV?
Yeah.
Were you into popular music? Were you getting it from your older sisters? What was that
Yeah. So
like?
you're probably gonna laugh, but like the band that I was absolutely crazy about at that time was Styx. The band Styx. Come Sail Away and Babe and all. It was like late 70s prog rock, which I listen to Styx now and it makes me cringe because I don't really think they're a very good band. Um, but at the time, there was something about their music that spoke to me, and I was playing piano, and it was like, oh, okay, Dennis DeYoung plays piano, and but coming from a perspective of just listening to Styx albums, which I was buying, I was buying the actual vinyl albums. Suddenly, it was like Talking Heads, Split Ends, Elvis Costello, The Pretenders. It was like this whole new world opened up to me. And my sisters were way into it as well.
Hmm.
And they started buying the records. So suddenly these records from MTV artists started to appear in our basement with us where we had our record player in the basement. It was like the family basement where it was all carpeted with paneling and all that, like total 70s style basement. But
Hmm.
that's where our record player was that the kids were like, okay, go downstairs and play your records. And that was like a magical land for me, being a young musician down there playing records. But yeah, so now suddenly we have all these new artists that are just kind of mind-blowing. The split ends music. Okay, one thing that I want to mention is like it was not just new music. There was a new instrument called a synthesizer.
Hmm.
That was a new instrument. And it was all over this music that was being played on MTV, these sounds that we had never heard before. Like if you listen to the split ends and there's synthesizer stuff or Video Killed the Radio Star. There's synth sounds that we had never even heard before.
Right.
That's something that I think that people don't really talk about enough is that the music itself, there were sounds coming through our TV that were like had never been heard before. Isn't that mind-blowing?
It is. It is because when you look, so one of the, which I like to tell my guests and anybody who contacts me, some people will ask me, why are you so interested in the first day or the first few months of MTV? And I say, well, number one, there's not a lot of footage of it and there's not a lot of feedback from people except when you're on social media and they say, oh, I witnessed the launch. It was great. And then they just mention the Buggles and that's it. Right. Um, you go on YouTube, there's some footage from November of 81, there's some footage from late August 81, but that's about it. Most people, when they talk about MTV, they just start at like 1983, right? They start with Madonna, Michael Jackson, Cyndi Lauper, and going after that. But when you look at the first 100, videos played on MTV on its launch day or the first month, it's so AOR rock
Yeah.
heavy,
Yeah.
and then every fifth or sixth video is something quirky from either an artist or a band you've never heard before,
Yeah.
or a local artist from New York or somewhere where you can't even find information on them on
Right.
Google, right?
Yeah.
So going back to what you were saying, how there was still the carryover from the 70s in the first few months of MTV. They're playing tons of REO Speedwagon and Rod Stewart, and most of those videos are from the 70s or very early 80s, or 1980, I should say. And like you said, then there's split ends, then there's talking heads, Buggles. And what's so weird is then you watch footage of, which I'm jumping ahead a little, but you then watch footage of MTV in 1982 and it's miles ahead of where it was 3 months
Yeah.
prior. That's
Yeah.
when you've got more of the Duran Duran, ABC, Spandau
Right.
Ballet, like Kim Wilde,
Yeah.
all of these
Yeah.
artists. But I digress. But I do want to go back a little bit, just back to ask you a little bit about when did you? I know you said that there was a buzz in like September when school started. Now you had told me previously you lived in Milwaukee, right, or
Yeah.
near
A
Milwaukee.
a suburb of Milwaukee. Yeah.
Okay, so
Very typical American suburb. Like when you watch movies from back then, it's like that's how I grew up. Kids on bikes going around the neighborhood and the
yeah,
whole, it was very like apple pie American. Like, so you have to understand, like coming in from outside on my bike and then turning this on and seeing Elvis Costello. It was like,
yeah.
who is that?
Hmm.
That's such a different look and sound that we were completely they may have as well have been from a different planet,
Right.
you know?
Absolutely. And that's what I love about early MTV also is that yes, it launched in New Jersey, um, but a lot of people got MTV right away in the country
Yeah,
within the first month, and obviously you're proof that it reached Milwaukee or the suburbs of Milwaukee by
yeah,
at least September. Who knows? It could have been longer. You know, you said you had just moved into another house.
yeah.
Um, do you remember any? I know you said that there was buzz about it in school, but do you remember any advertisements or any? Do you remember hearing the acronym MTV at all prior to school?
Prior to going in September for school,
Yeah, yeah. When you said
no,
that you started hearing the buzz about it. Okay, okay.
no, there was no buzz. I mean, again, even cable was new, you know. So there was no buzz and nothing that said, "Hey, you should watch this" or anything
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm.
Um, it was a very much a station that's playing music videos. and some of the girls are really hot. You know, I'm telling you, like, and then you're like, what? Really? Yeah. If you keep going on cable, if you keep spinning that thing until you'll find a station that has hot girls, you know?
Right, right.
And my friends and I were like, okay, I'll see if I can find it like when my mom's out grocery shopping. And
You heard Hot Girls first, then music videos, right?
well,
Yeah.
right. You know what I mean? And
Right.
and I honestly do MTV was so aware of that.
Hmm.
They knew that that was part of the thing, you know. Um, you know, looking back on it now, it was Reagan had just been elected. You know, there was a conservative movement happening in the US. Um, a lot of things were still taboo, very much so. Um, and there was no way that a 12-year-old was going to be able to watch. You know, you sent me the list of the videos that they from the first year,
Hmm.
and it was there's a video in there by Kate Bush. Do you know which one I'm talking about? The
Wuthering Heights or
No, it's the man with the child in his
Child
eye,
in His Eyes. Yeah.
and she's in like a cat suit, kind of writhing on the floor, and you know, this is like if my mom would have walked in while I was watching that, she would have been like, "Turn that off."
Right. Right.
Okay?
Right.
Yeah. She would have been like, "Now go up to," like it just would not have been happening. But the fact that that my friends and I had access to that was groundbreaking. It was groundbreaking.
Sure.
And
Well,
it felt,
we're gonna get into that because I want to hear about, some of those first experiences
yeah,
that you had with your friends, definitely.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, just going back to the reason why I asked about the advertising, there's mixed messaging online what people talk about advertisements versus not. Now, it is possible that you may have had to have been older. I think you find some older people who were older at the time mentioned that MTV was running their city or their town was a test market. So you've got people in Oklahoma, people in Texas, people in even Minnesota and up there. I've read that MTV came to their college campuses that summer, and they were trying to inform people of this. They had run a couple of different commercials on TV, so that's why I was asking about that to see if you remembered any of that. Now, again, I
no,
know you said you had just gotten cable when you moved into that
yeah,
new house, so that's fine. But that's why I
yeah,
was curious about that. But let's go right into you're 12 years old. You've got your
yeah,
friends, your buddies.
yeah.
Um, I don't expect you to remember what the first video is that you ever saw, but if you do remember, that would be great. Otherwise,
Well,
what were those first experiences of watching it?
okay, so it was the first video that they played, the Buggles,
Oh,
video
wow.
radio star. That was the one that my friends and I were like, this is weird, but there's there's a lot going on in that song and in that video. And after rewatching it now, there's a lot of tie-ins with AI even. Um, there's stuff hidden in the lyrics. I'm just gonna read some of them to you because I wrote
No,
them down.
please, please.
Rewritten by machine on new technology. That's a lyric.
Yep.
You were the first one. You are the last one. This is stuff that speaks to me right now. We can't rewind. We've gone too far. Um, Pictures came and broke your heart. You know, these the there was a sort of sadness that they built into that song because it is sort of a mourning of the old days and an introduction of the new days.
Hmm.
And the new days that they're presenting are kind of dystopian.
Bleak.
Yeah. If you watch that video, there's like the little girl is on top of the mountain of TVs and it's a little dystopian. And I remember watching that as a kid and I couldn't really process what that feeling was, but it was something kind of like, can I swear or no?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
It was kind of like, oh shit, something is happening.
Hmm.
Like it just felt like the world was really changing. And that video, I mean, first of all, it had the word killed in the title.
Hmm.
I can't think of many songs prior to that that used the word kill.
Good point.
Okay.
Hmm.
So now we're watching it, and he's singing video killed the radio star. So then there was like almost like a violence to it,
Hmm.
and it was just so far away from Babe, I'm leaving, from
Yeah.
six, it was like so different than that
Right. Hmm.
that it was a little unsettling
Hmm.
and felt almost like a little scary, but super compelling and like you really just you couldn't take your eyes off it. Um, and by the way, after rewatching that video, what I noticed was that there's no drummer in that band. It's just a wall of synths.
Hmm.
There's no guitar player in that band on the video. No drums and no guitars, which is the 70s were built on drums and guitars.
Yep. So it's a new world. And of
It's
course,
the
the British are
whole,
doing it, right? Of
yeah.
course, the Brits are the one
And
leading
the
the way.
British, yeah, exactly. So, and that's part of the new wave, that was coming from England is this sort of um, avant-garde art rock. We had Bowie, and we knew that Bowie was capable of extraordinary theatrics, but this was like rough and kind of raw. And it really felt like my friends and I, we felt like we were in on a secret.
Hmm.
There's this secret thing that's happening on my TV, and the adults aren't talking about it, but all the kids at school are talking about it.
Yeah. So why don't you take me through that a little bit? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you don't remember any specific conversations, but what is it like to be going to school and talking with your friends about this, like you said, this secret thing? Are you guys sitting there? Are you talking about MTV in general? Are you talking about, oh, hey, did you see this video, this artist? Or is it everything? Or
So, in all honesty, in 1981, that really wasn't happening as much. But by 83, we were all talking about specific videos.
got
And,
it. Okay.
and part of the reason for that, I think, was that we were kind of shy about it. We were like, I like this artist, Elvis Costello, but like I was too insecure to tell my friends that I liked Elvis Costello,
Ah, I see.
you
Okay.
know,
Hmm.
because what if they thought that Elvis wasn't cool,
Sure.
you know? So nobody, and they felt the same feelings. They were thinking, oh shit, I don't want to talk about how much I love that video because what if the kids at school don't think it's cool,
Hmm.
you know? So it was sort of like, psst, watch MTV, but nobody wanted to say what they thought was really amazing about it yet,
Yeah.
other than the fact that there were hot girls.
They're like, hey, how was that REO Speedwagon video?
Yeah,
Great, huh?
no, no.
No, okay.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
But as I was rewatching the videos that you sent me again,
Mhm.
I did notice that when it came to the Who, they kind of looked like dinosaurs. They
Yeah.
they looked already so much like, and you can see it on their faces, they're sort of bored. Like they didn't really understand what the new medium was
No,
and how to work it, you know?
no, no.
Um, so yeah, and I think they got phased out pretty quickly.
Well, and that's a whole other conversation that you could do an entire podcast series on
Yeah,
about, the pre-video bans, post-video bans,
yeah,
who survived, who didn't, whatnot.
yeah.
I think so. I mean, that's a great topic.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll invite you for a Robby part two, 2.5 episode. But yeah, it's going back to mentioning the Buggles. the song Video Killed the Radio Star is not only the star, for lack of a better word. Like you said, the video is so important to that song.
Yes.
Russell Mulcahy is one of my favorite video directors. I mean, he's done so many. If you look up his videography, it's incredible what he's done. And I don't think without him doing that video, it makes as much of an impact. And to go off of also songs that not, I mean, the Buggles didn't only have Video Kill the Radio Star. On day one, they played a song called Living in the Plastic Age, which was
Yeah.
one of the lesser known songs from
Yeah.
that first
That was the
album.
B side.
Yeah, but if you read the lyrics or just listen to the lyrics of that song, it's just as dystopian and just as applicable today.
Yeah.
With plastic
Yeah.
faces and plastic image. And it's anyway, so that's just a side note of agreeing to where you're seeing all these visuals, you're hearing these new sounds. It's overload, right? It's got to
Yeah.
be overload on you as a young person.
Well, it just felt, like I said, it felt a little dangerous. It felt a little dystopian and a little dangerous. And it definitely felt like, I don't think my parents would like this, which made it even cooler,
Sure,
you know?
sure.
Um, but we were, so I don't remember the Talking Heads from 81, but when the Talking Heads hit MTV, and same as it ever was, Once in a Lifetime, I'm sorry,
Once in a
Once in a
lifetime, yeah.
Lifetime. Once in a Lifetime, when that video hit, um, my sisters, my cousins, my all the kids at school could not stop talking about that video because
Yep.
he had that video dance that was so weird and
So
quirky.
to the listeners, Robbie is doing the hand
Yeah,
hand
hand
down the arm
down the
dance
arm.
motion that
Yeah,
David Byrne does. Yes,
and
yes,
and and everybody at school was kind of like, "What the hell is that?"
right,
And
right.
but we thought that song was so funky, you know. Um, and by the way, I'm a musician, so I know that that song is in the Smithsonian Museum,
Is
and
it really?
yes, and it should be
Wow.
because he he really well, I shouldn't say David Byrne, the entire band. Uh, they created something that is essentially timeless. If you listen to the production on Once in a Lifetime through a 2026 lens, it's fresh as could be to
Hmm.
this day. There's stuff going on there that's just they were so far ahead of their time. Um, and then and his look again with the crazy dark hair and the glasses, and he was skinny, and it was just like he didn't look like a model. He didn't look like Rod Stewart. He was like the anti-Rod Stewart,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
Um, his sexuality was coming from a very different place than Rod Stewart. And to us as kids, that was sort of like, oh, okay, so we can express ourselves in a way that doesn't have to be like Rod Stewart.
Sure.
And that in itself was compelling. You know what I mean? It's like the we couldn't take even the girls that I knew couldn't take their eyes off of David Byrne, but he didn't necessarily look sexy, but he looked really cool,
Different and interesting, right?
like just cool, you
Hmm.
know? And to be cool in 1981 or 82 or whatever when that video came out officially was like, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Um, so
Well,
and
and that hit day one. I mean, that video played on day one, so I can't imagine,
oh, it did?
it did, yeah. And they were supposedly, playing it pretty regularly throughout 81. Well, I'm sure they were playing it for many years, not just
Okay,
81, but
if that's true, then I need to rephrase something because by the fall of 81, when my friends and I were, well, I had just started middle school or junior high school. Yeah, we were all talking about that video.
yeah, I'm sure you
So,
were. I'm
yeah,
sure you couldn't
no,
have missed it if you were watching during the
no,
day.
it was a
Yeah.
cultural moment when that video came out,
Hmm.
with his dance moves. And God bless him, he's still dancing on stage.
He is, yeah. And you know who doesn't get enough credit also for that is Tony Basil, because Tony Basil actually,
Yes.
Mickey fame, uh, excellent choreographer, and she actually helped the choreography for that video and some of the other Talking Heads videos.
Yeah.
So, I mean, big shout out to her as well, because all of them had a vision. People only know Tony Basil really for Mickey, but they don't know how much else
Right.
she contributed to popular culture with
Yeah.
dance and music. But so okay, so you mentioned Rod Stewart. Now I'm a huge Rod Stewart fan. Um, I'm a huge fan of REO Speedwagon and Styx and all of those and all of the new wave bands. I think what boggles my mind about early MTV, the early days that you would have witnessed is, and I know we talked about this a little, but I can't imagine what it was like to see Once in a Lifetime, and then the next video is, Tonight's the Night by Rod Stewart, followed
Yeah.
by three more AOR videos, and then something new that some band you've never heard of, right?
Yeah.
So, are you around this time, if you can remember, are you still into your Rod Stewart and your Styx? Like, are you still enjoying those videos and those songs, or did it
Okay.
just snap and shift?
So, um, first of all, I've performed for Rod Stewart and he's a super nice guy.
That's
Okay.
great to hear.
Yeah. And like just super down to earth and relatable and I adore him. Okay. Um, but at the time, my friends and I had no interest in Rod Stewart. My older sisters liked his music. But we just didn't he was coming from a place of almost disco 70s. Do you think I'm sexy?
Hmm.
My to my friends and I at the time, it was more like a punchline. Do you think I'm sexy? Because we would be like, no,
Right.
no. Um, so yeah, and REO Speedwagon, same thing, cool band, but like didn't wasn't compelling to us to watch on MTV. But the Buggles, Split Ends, Talking Heads, um, Kate Bush, the Pretenders.
Yeah.
Um, I'd never heard Brass in Pocket until MTV.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but what was Milwaukee radio playing
I mean,
at the time?
I don't know because I was only 12 and like, I was at the mercy of whatever my parents wanted to listen to in the car,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and I really wasn't listening to much radio, uh, to be honest, because I was more into buying vinyl and then playing the vinyl. Um, so yeah, and my friends, same thing. We were all buying vinyl,
Hmm.
not really listening to the radio very much.
Okay.
Um, I mean, in the car, our parents would put on their station and we'd be forced to listen to whatever. And if we asked them to change the station, they would just be like, no, you know? So, but yeah, so the Pretenders, that video, Brass in Pocket, that I have very vivid memories of watching that back then in 1981. And I loved that song. I loved her voice. The way she presented herself as like the ordinary waitress
Hmm.
with a heavy black eyeliner all around her eyes. Um, she was just again cool. She didn't look like the models from the 70s, she just looked like an ordinary girl. She could have been an ordinary Milwaukee girl,
Hmm.
uh, with tons of black eyeliner on, So she was kind of goth before goth was even a thing. Um, but again, like the British they were part of something new,
Miles ahead.
miles ahead.
Miles ahead.
And then so then through the magic of this cable, it was being delivered into our family room through this old family TV. And so really it was a window into another universe.
Great. Great. Yeah, so thank you. The those reflections on the early days are excellent, and just the fact that you have such specific memories of those videos and you
Yeah,
can conjure those memories without having
yeah,
to rewatch them
yeah,
shows how much that it sank in. It
yeah.
just sank in from the start.
It absolutely did. And if REO Speedwagon came on after you know, uh, the Talking Heads, we would leave the room. We would keep the channel on and then just go do something else
Yeah.
and wait for the Split Ends to come on
Hmm.
because they were new wave and we just didn't know what that was, but it was something that was so cool to us. And that avenue really ushered in, like you mentioned, Duran Duran, you know, it ushered in a whole wave of bands from England at the time that we couldn't get enough of.
And a lot of the other artists and bands just couldn't compete with the
Oh, they
new.
could.
Some adapted, some didn't. And again, that could be a whole other, podcast episode. There
They
wasn't
could.
room for love Christopher Cross. I love him, but there was no room for Christopher Cross on MTV,
No,
unfortunately.
he
You know,
didn't have a look that was made for MTV.
yeah,
Rod
yeah,
Stewart, they thought had that look, you know. And actually Rod Stewart's music evolved in the 80s.
it
Uh,
did, and he still kept a look. It's interesting how he
yeah,
adapted.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
I think he figured out, okay, I've got to shift because something new is happening.
right,
Um,
right.
uh, so yeah, it's I I heard the other day, that that they signed off, MTV signed off forever. Uh,
Uh,
like
in other countries, not America, I believe.
no, I think they ended the broadcast.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, you can double check that, but
Doesn't
I
matter anyway. They don't play videos anymore. So,
yeah, no, but I think they
yeah,
actually and the last video they played was Video Killed the Radio Star.
as they should,
Yeah.
as they should.
Um, but I felt real sadness on hearing that news that MTV was no longer. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure that happened this year.
Yeah.
Um, so it's so interesting when on that first video where he's like, "You were the first one, you are the last one." It's because I'm struggling right now with what how AI is impacting music already because people are creating songs that aren't musicians,
Hmm.
and I'm battling AI music on Spotify where I'm trying to get my songs heard, but we're pushed out by AI. So, but it's amazing to me how in that song, "Video Killed the Radio Star," all of that is sort of what's the word? It's um it's like alluded to. It's like a prelude to these times that we're in now. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
and it's
It's like watching the old Twilight Zone episodes and saying, "Oh,
yeah,
wow, they predicted this 60, 70 something years ago." Great.
yeah,
Good to
exactly.
know. Good to know that we're living in these dystopian times. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very, and sad, in a lot of ways.
Sure.
So,
Now, I have one last question about early MTV before we just go into, MTV as a whole. Do you remember? So one thing I also find fascinating, I've read a lot of books and they've done anniversary books. There's a great book called VJ, and it's I don't know if you've read it or heard about it. They interview the first five VJs, and they just do a retrospective of MTV through the years. But the book VJ goes really in depth into the early years. And one thing they talk about is kids are running to the record stores, and these kids are living in like Tulsa, Oklahoma,
yeah,
and they're asking for records by the Tubes and the Buggles
yeah,
and Kate Bush. And the record store owners are just looking at them like, who the hell are these people?
yeah.
What is this, right? Um, I just wanted to ask because you said that you were buying records. Do you or maybe your older sisters have any memory of that type of thing where you're going to the record store, but you can't because if you like you said, if you loved the Talking Heads record, if you loved the Split Enz record, were you actually going to the store or trying to find it? And they said, well, no, or yes, or did you ever have any of that type of experience?
Yeah. Um, First of all, the record store was the coolest place in town. Okay. That, like, no joke, at the mall, the only place that kids really wanted to be was in the vinyl store.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Um, and they were pretty good at getting a lot of different things, but to buy an entire album because you loved one song was sort of like, could you come up with the money to do that? And is it worth it?
Yeah,
You know? So, if we were lucky enough to be like, we're holding the Talking Heads album in our hands, um, and it has Once in a Lifetime on it, am I really going to spend 7.99, which at the time was probably what it cost,
sure.
7.99 or 9.99? Am I going to spend this kind of money for this album when I just really love that song and it's coming on MTV? So then I might have put it back, which is sad because it means I missed out on the rest of the album, which is so brilliant, you
Hmm.
know. But yeah, I think it was, at least for my friends and I, we didn't have any money. You know, we were kids with no money.
Right.
So to ask mom, can I have money to buy a Talking Heads album? She would be like, who are the Talking Heads? And yeah,
She's like, that's you and your friends, the Talking Heads.
exactly. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
You and
Right.
your friends in the car. Your
Or say,
car.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
or Split Ends, she's just been like, okay, no, it's not happening.
yeah.
So yeah, it was, but in a way that almost reinforces how cool MTV was, because we couldn't afford to buy the records that that featured that music, unless we really saved. Um, and okay, so by the time Bruce Springsteen, Michael Jackson, Madonna, 1984, okay, by the time Thriller hit, then everybody was like, I got to buy this album.
Hmm.
And literally every kid bought Thriller. Like, if you didn't have Thriller on vinyl, there was something wrong with you.
Right.
Okay?
Hmm.
For real. But it was the video that MTV was playing, well, the videos, but that one video with the Thriller dance, like, that was, when that hit, that was earth shattering. Like,
Well, they built this whole world premiere, not only on
yeah,
MTV, but I think
exactly.
on network television.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think it was on CBS or whatever channel was showing it. I mean, can you imagine that now? Well, I mean, the musical landscape has changed, but can you imagine your local like Hulu saying to you, "Hey, tune in at 8/7 Central for the premiere of,
Yeah.
Bad Bunny's
Actually,
new video." I mean, it's
I
insane.
think Taylor Swift kind of did something like that once, but um, no, it's just it's a totally different world.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
So that actually is a good way to shift into you're 12, you're entering in middle school, you said in 81, right? September of
Yeah,
81. So middle school, high school through the 80s, what is your relationship, for lack of a better word, with MTV like? Is it still something that you're watching more?
yeah.
Same?
No, I'm laughing because it was a very intimate relationship, and I'm going to explain what that means. Um, Madonna had a video for Lucky Star. In the beginning of the video, she's kind of rolling around the floor with like her belly exposed.
One of
Okay.
many times she would do that, yes.
Yeah, yeah. But and I think by that time I was like maybe 13 or 14, you know, and so hormones were in full swing. But I literally would go home and pray that my mom would be at the grocery store, that I could have alone time with the TV and wait for that video, you know? So because yeah, that was a very compelling thing for a young boy,
Sure,
you
sure.
know? And it was like that first feeling of, wow, I am very excited about this.
Hmm. Hmm. In multiple ways.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right.
So, yeah, I mean, it was, it was dangerous. It was dystopian. It was sexuality. It was a window into another universe. All those things.
Yeah. Did you continue watching through your young adulthood? I mean, through your teen college
Yeah,
years? Was it still something that was on? I mean,
yeah.
because there's such a, well, a lot of people talk about, a lot of people around your age will talk about and have very strong opinions about when they think MTV died, right? They say,
Well,
oh, it stopped with remote control, it stopped with real world, it stopped with road rules, whatever. But throughout the 80s, what an interesting, so you've got 81 and 82, where it's just very bare bones MTV. 83 comes on, 83 comes, MTV's now in the stratosphere of what's cool and crazy and all these new videos. Late 80s, you're being introduced to hip hop. You're being introduced to, well, not introduced, but hair metal, for lack of a better phrase, becomes the norm in the late 80s.
yeah.
And then the 90s, you've got grunge. I mean, they're setting all these new trends and they're setting all these new um, genres of music. Were you a fan of all of that as it went on, or
Okay, so there's one important shift that we haven't talked about that we need to, and that is when it debuted in 81, it was exclusively white.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
So, and we didn't really notice that because honestly, most TV at that time was white. Um, I mean, we might have had the Jeffersons, but it didn't, they were shooting no commercials with anyone who wasn't white. Um, but then there was a shift on MTV, and that was an important shift um, when they started featuring black artists, when they incorporated them. And, you know, Michael Jackson, you know, he, the guy was made for MTV.
yeah, absolutely.
He was
I,
made for MTV and probably made MTV into what it became at that time. He probably single-handedly made MTV the thing that everybody was talking about and watching. Um, and so it all trickled down from Michael Jackson and Madonna.
yes,
Those two, those two were sort of the pillars of 80s. But then we got Lionel Richie, and we loved Lionel Richie's solo albums and solo songs, um, uh, All Night Long and all that stuff. It was just, um, it was awesome to be able to get exposure to music that suburban kids normally wouldn't get exposure to, you know. Um, and and then when it went into the hair bands, I wasn't a hair bands fan. Uh, and that's when I started to lose a little bit of interest in MTV. Um, I at that point, personally, I started getting into jazz, so it was far removed. Um, and then the rap artists, um, again, I was having a hard time because I couldn't hear the musical chord structure that I was looking for,
uh-huh,
you
sure.
know. So then between rap and hair bands, that's when I started to tune out from it. Um, I have massive respect for all that genre, both genres now as an adult, but at the time I wasn't into it. Um, and really started to branch out into other things like jazz and other things.
But
So,
what's interesting is when you say that is that you also, if I'm doing my math correctly, you're also entering college age years at that point. which a lot of people in college start branching out to other
Yeah.
music. It's almost kind of like a rite of passage when you go to college, or even if you don't go to college, there's just some type of shift at 18, I think, that
Yeah.
you start branching out, right? We've all,
100%.
hopefully,
It is kind of amazing because looking back at it, I feel grateful that I was the age I was when all this happened, because I think I was at the perfect age for all of this. To be 12 years old and suddenly MTV is happening is that in itself was mind blowing.
sure.
Um, but I grew up with Madonna and Bruce Springsteen and Michael Jackson and David Bowie. David Bowie's Let's Dance album and those videos, Modern Love, with his blonde hair and his yellow suit. Um, I mean, and In Excess, the band In Excess, uh, and The Clash. Those were the bands that we were playing at high school dances,
Yeah,
you know? Um,
I'm very jealous about that, but go
I
ahead.
no, I do have to say because when I think about our high school dances, I think it might have been literally the golden era of high school dances because we had that music,
Yeah.
you know, and the movies, like The Breakfast Club and Don't You Forget About Me. We that was this those were this oh, and Tears for Fears.
You could go on forever.
You could go on
And this and
forever.
this and you could,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I just want to before we wrap up that thought, I want to go back to what you were saying before about black artists. It's such an interesting, it's almost cringy to look at all of the first videos that were played and you
Yeah,
just see white, 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 white. I mean, black people were on MTV, but they were background. They were the musicians. They weren't in the forefront. And Prince, I think a lot of people said that Billie Jean was the first black, for lack of a better word, um, Billie Jean was the first black artist video played. But other people were saying that Little Red Corvette or 1999 by Prince was one of the first. So I don't know, which one it was, but whatever it was, both Prince and Michael Jackson were made for MTV with, extreme talent. And I'm glad that they finally branched out. But this is not just for you, but all the listeners, Googling the history of how Michael Jackson ended up being played on MTV and CBS Records and that whole story is fascinating. It's a
yeah. And,
must, a must
and
Google.
didn't David Bowie give them an ultimatum?
David Bowie didn't give an ultimatum. He did a famous interview with Mark Goodman in 83 asking and pressing him in a live interview why there were no black artists. And
Right.
Mark Goodman was kind of pushed into a corner. I think Mark Goodman probably felt a little torn, and this was in his own words. He was torn with agreeing with Bowie and torn with not wanting to lose his job and wanting to keep the party line of AOR is our format. Michael Jackson's
Yeah,
not our format, right? Because
yeah,
that was the argument from the beginning is
yeah,
Earth, Wind, and Fire is not our format. Rick
yeah,
James is not our format.
yeah.
Um, but then they're perfectly okay with playing a bunch of white bands that play black music, right?
Right.
So that happened in 83. And then you've got the whole CBS records threatening to pull all of their artists off of MTV if MTV didn't play Billie Jean.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine MTV not playing Billie Jean, right? I mean, it's
Well,
what a
I don't
shift.
think, yes, I mean, it was a massive shift. And again, that album, Thriller, was, it was that album in itself was a cultural moment. I mean, have you seen what's happening with this Michael Jackson biopic right
Yes, I
now?
haven't I haven't seen it, but yes, I know of.
People like in the theaters, they're dancing and going crazy. Uh, like it's a theater experience that we haven't even seen, and that's in 2026.
Yeah,
Um, but what a testament to the power of his music and his videos and what he was doing at that time. And again, I think MTV, I think Michael made MTV,
sure.
you know? I mean, it's amazing that they almost didn't want to play his music because they can pretty much credit their success as there's MTV before Michael Jackson, and then there's MTV after. And it
Well,
was,
yeah, and some of the executives, their reasoning was, well, have you seen Michael Jackson's old videos? It's him with a bunch of laser beams in the background. And it's like, well, yes, but have you seen some of the videos that played in 81 and 82? It's,
yeah.
a
You
very
know,
bare
sorry.
bones room. It's a very
Yeah.
bare bones room with a bunch of guys running around, yelling. I mean, uh, yeah, so it's just interesting.
And I should have mentioned Prince because you mentioned Prince, and I can't believe I didn't come up with Prince right away because Prince, my because first of all, I grew up in Wisconsin, Minnesota was next door. We knew Prince as a Minneapolis artist, and that in itself was kind of cool. Like, oh wait, he's from our neck of the woods.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. Um, whereas um, Prince, Prince was just a very different vibe than Michael. And it was like, yeah, Little Red Corvette. I mean, I think our parents were like, you can watch Michael, but you can't watch Prince.
Hmm. Well,
Because
Prince had
Prince,
that dangerous
he
sexual
really did.
ambiguity,
Yeah, yeah.
not sexual ambiguity, but
Well, I
however you
mean,
want to phrase it.
no, I
Yeah.
think there was some sexual
Sure.
ambiguity. I mean, he was very feminine. He was masculine and feminine at the same time. It was kind of a
Hmm.
Prince. There will never be another artist like Prince. That guy was amazing.
Right.
Okay. But those early videos, yeah, they were super dangerous. Like that was a territory that again, our parents would have been like, turn that off,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Um, like for whatever reason, our parents were okay with Michael Jackson, probably because they knew him from the 70s and he was a cute little kid, so it was almost like nostalgia for them. But Prince, Prince, Prince was something that we were just like, yeah, it felt very subversive and underground.
Well, Michael also always had that boyish innocence
Yeah,
that I think maybe parents, again, like you said, parents knew him from the Jacksons and from
yeah,
the 70s or
yeah,
late 60s as well, but they were still kind of like, oh no, this is Michael Jackson, Prince, a whole other genre, like
yeah,
Madonna, right? I
yeah.
would think that Prince and Madonna would have been the two that were, oh no,
Yeah. No, they were, I mean, for lack of a better word, they were taboo.
sure.
They were taboo, which nothing is more compelling to a kid than, oh, it's taboo.
Right. Right.
You
Whatever
know?
it is, whatever
Yeah,
it is.
whatever it is, whatever
Yeah.
that taboo is, you're like, oh, I got to find out what that is.
You're
You
like,
know?
Mom, don't you have to go grocery shopping? Wink, wink.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't you have to pick up your my sister Jackie from piano lessons?
Exactly. No, she doesn't have piano lessons today. Oh no, I think she does.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, for
Right.
real. It was I keep going back to a window into a dangerous dystopian other universe where there was a lot of sexuality
Hmm.
at play.
Hmm.
Um, and it was, I mean, every kid goes through when you're going through adolescence, you're going through a sort of sexual awakening. I feel like the country was going through an awakening with MTV. I really do. Um, and uh, that was part of the reason why by the mid 80s we started having people like I don't know if you know a politician by the name of Ed Meese.
Ed
Uh,
Meese, did you say?
yeah, Ed Meese. Um, he was a conservative politician, and then we had even Tipper Gore
Sure.
was
With the PMRC and all of
yeah.
that. Yeah.
So the adults started to get nervous
Hmm.
about what is happening because first of all they weren't a part of it. They were on the outside. So it was something cool that the kids had for themselves. And I think that's really important, actually. And I'm sure MTV was aware of that the kids felt we have something for us now, at least my generation, throughout the 80s. MTV felt like ours. The VJs felt like our friends. And well, what was that video? Um, we're not going to take it.
Yeah,
Uh,
Twisted Sister.
yeah, Twisted Sister. Um, where like the dad comes in, he's like, "What are you doing?" That essentially that video was the way that parents looked at MTV.
Hmm.
You know, whereas the kids were like, "We're cool, we're watching MTV. It's subversive. It's sexual." But the parents don't really know. The parents aren't really hip to it yet.
Right. Or yeah, or if you're home by yourself for long
Oh, you're home
periods
by
of time.
yourself
Yeah.
watching Madonna
Yeah.
and getting totally turned on.
Well, you said to your generation, it would also apply to my generation as well. I'm 40 and the 90s, I'm a 90s kid, right? So, but I didn't have cable until the late 90s when Total Request Live, TRL, was big, hosted by Carson Daly at first. And that felt like our it was for kids.
Yeah,
It was targeted to young people, but it felt like something that was ours. And I'm just going off of what you said about feeling like MTV was yours. It's the same feeling. It was a show for us. The parents didn't understand, what are these top 10 videos they're playing? This, whether you like the videos or not, it was our show to run home to after school. So I
yeah,
think MTV kind of had that. It was for the young people. It was built that way. And I think it lasted that way until probably the early to mid 2000s. And then they kind of switched over to the constant reality shows and all of that. But
yeah. How sad.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Really, you know.
it is.
Uh,
But
but
you have to wonder if there's even a need with YouTube and everything in a snap of a finger that you can find and build your own playlists. You can, like that playlist I sent you, you could just put that on
yeah,
and pretend that you're watching MTV from 1981. You
yeah.
don't need that channel anymore. And whether you think that's a good thing or not, it still is, right? It is what it is because of the
Uh,
speed of technology. It's
yeah.
the experience is way different, but there's no stopping it, unfortunately.
I have very strong feelings about this because I'm still releasing albums and writing music and all that kind of stuff. And um, the the buzz right now is, oh, videos don't matter. Like a music video doesn't matter anymore. Um, and in fact, they're like, no, just sit and play your piano because they would rather watch someone actually reveal their real talent instead of, you know what I mean?
Isn't
So
that crazy?
yeah, no, that's where we're at now.
That's
They're like,
crazy.
they're like, don't do a budget music video. Just set up an iPhone and play so they can see your fingers move because that's going to get you views, you know? But that's how far we've come, which is to me kind of sad because that, like you mentioned, Tony Basil, like it was an art form. The directors and the producers of those videos were making art and the bands were contributors.
Absolutely.
Um, and some of them took it to great heights, like David Bowie and Michael Jackson. I mean, they took it to a height. Courtney Cox's entire career was built from a Dancing in the Dark video.
Yes. Yes. Doing very 80s dancing on stage, right?
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. With
Yeah.
Bruce,
Yeah.
you know? Uh, but even like that, she was the girl from that video, and everybody saw that video. I mean, every kid that I knew saw that video, and she was the girl that danced in the video,
Hmm.
you know? So think about how powerful that was to get that many eyeballs watching the same thing. Like today, that's impossible. To,
Sure.
today, to get that many people watching the same thing
At
is
the same time, or
the same
either at the
time.
same time or not at the same time, but the
Yeah,
same thing. Right.
yeah.
Right.
It's like it just doesn't happen.
Right.
You don't get. I don't know how many people were watching those MTV, but I want to say there were millions. Uh,
Yeah. Most
you know,
likely.
yeah, probably 20 million people watched Bruce Springsteen's Dancing in the Dark video all within a month span.
Right.
It came out.
Right.
Oh, so
Right.
suddenly 20 million people were like, who's that girl?
Right. Right.
You know?
Right.
Um, so yeah, I have strong feelings about it because I miss the old days, you know. I'm starting to sound like an old man now.
No.
Uh, but I do. I miss the when the marketplace was so not fractured like it is now,
Hmm.
you know. And I think that was the beauty of MTV was that it united us in a lot of ways. You know, it really did. It united the generation of kids at that time, you know.
Sure. And to be your age when it launched, you were at that perfect age.
I was. I was.
I told Kristen from the first interview, I think she was born a year before you were, and I said you were there in the perfect age for its golden years,
Yeah.
right? And it was made for you, right?
Yeah,
I
it
mean, you
was.
were the market. So their market was a pretty large gap. I think it was like 12 to 24 or something because they wanted something that was directed towards that market because there wasn't a lot out at that time for that age market. But yeah, that's great. And I think we've touched on 10 different topics that you and I could do separate podcast episodes about. So we've got to talk about AI in music, Black people on MTV,
Yeah.
and people who did not survive the MTV
Yeah,
transition.
artists that couldn't make the transition.
Exactly. And artists
Yeah.
who did. Yeah. And the
Yeah,
surprisingly,
artists
the artists who did. Yes.
who capitalized
But
on it.
yes. But Robbie, I want to thank you. This has been amazing. And I have one last question for you. Um, this will be another podcast episode about the greatest music videos of all time. But what are some of your any time period? What are some of your favorite videos of all time, or do you have any?
You know, there was a song called Mexican Radio.
Yeah, Wall of Voodoo. Yeah,
Yeah. Do you know that
yeah,
song?
yeah.
Okay.
Love it.
There was an that is an even tie with fish heads, roly poly fish heads. Okay. Like those were quirky, subversive, counterculture, strange, weird videos that would pop up on MTV that my friends and I could not get enough of. Okay. When that lady pulls the top of that vat of beans off and that guy's face is in there, like that was iconic for us. You know, that I cannot convey to you how much we discussed that at lunch the next day. You know, that video, Mexican Radio, and the other one, the Fish Heads. And I don't even know who wrote the song Fish Heads,
So
but
it's a group Barnes and Barnes, which is one of them is Billy Mumi, who was one of the young kids in one of the old Twilight Zone episodes. And he ended up doing this duo Barnes and Barnes, and they had very interesting songs. And then they had a lot of their early music videos had Bill Paxton in them. I guess he was
weird.
friends with them. Rest in peace, Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
But yeah. So when I first started this research love of mine into MTV, this is almost 20 years now that I've been doing this. I found a blog post, and this is back in 2008, 2009 when people were still blogging, right? And I just Googled, you know, early MTV people, you know, memories or something like that. And people were listing all of these videos and artists that I'd never heard of. And one of them said they just put a post that said, or a comment that said, fish heads, fish heads. And I thought it was a spammer.
No.
And I went, what the hell is this? And then somebody else finally, thankfully, commented because I would have ignored it. And then YouTube was still in its infancy then. It was only out for a few years back then, but somebody had uploaded the fish heads video. And I
Yeah.
watched it and I went, I cannot imagine sitting at home, turning on the TV on MTV and seeing this video. Come on.
Yeah, and that's what it was. I mean, I think they only played it like late at night and stuff, you know what I mean? Like that was but how cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about in a sense that was high art because it was so you never would have heard that song on the radio. Nobody would have ever it was like it was a little time capsule of that era. And and weird, quirky Andy Warhol art.
Hmm.
being delivered to us through our family TV, you know? It was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So Kristen, in our first episode, she mentioned the Mexican radio video as well.
Yeah.
So apparently that has, really, really sunken into your brains at that time.
Well, I mean, again, so you have to think about the kids at lunch at school and what we would talk about, and it would probably be like, oh my God, did you see that video with the beans? What are you talking about? Yeah, there's this weird video where the guy's like head is in a big thing of beans and it's like Mexican radio or something like it. It's a weird song. And then you'd have to go like, okay, and then you'd have to go home after school and wait for
Just
that to
wait
come up.
and just
Yeah,
wait and
because you
wait.
didn't want your friends to be privy to something that you didn't hadn't seen.
Right, right.
And then it was like a badge of honor, like, oh yeah, I've seen that video.
Sure,
I've seen the fish heads video.
sure,
You know what I
sure.
mean? And then you could go back to school the next day and at lunch be like, yeah, I saw the have you seen Talking Heads? You know, have you seen that one with the guys dancing weird?
Hmm. And then if you're the first one to see it, you're just like, well, I guess you just haven't seen it yet.
Exactly. Exactly.
You're like,
Yeah.
Call me back. Let me know when you've finally seen the video and then we'll talk, right?" Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
No.
that was probably again not the first year, but by the second year we were probably
Right.
talking. The first year it was so new that we were just shy about it. Like I don't think anybody wanted to really be like admitting that we were watching that stuff
Right.
because we just didn't know how people would feel about it.
Little did you know, 2 years later, maybe even a year later, right? Everything
Yeah,
changes. Yeah.
everything changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then a lot of kids on their jean jackets, they started getting MTV patches
Okay.
they would wear on their jean jackets or that they would sew into their book bag. So
You had that, didn't you?
no, I didn't.
You
I
didn't.
didn't,
Oh
but
no.
no, I didn't. But it's like I have such vivid memories of the kids at school that did
Right.
that it's like it's making me emotional to think about.
Well, going forward, you heard it here first. Going forward, I only want to interview people who had MTV patches on their jackets and book
Yeah,
bags. So,
exactly. Exactly. Or it was like they hand drew it on because we had to have book covers, like we would make our own book covers
yep, with the
out of
paper or the plastic, the laminate.
exactly,
Yeah,
yeah. And
yeah.
then, if you were really talented at art, you would draw the MTV logo or like the little moon man with the flag.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then you were cool.
Oh, oh, I wish. Take me back. I'm
Yeah,
I'm fortunate enough to, even though you and I are a different age, I'm fortunate enough to have gotten a lot of the same exposure to MTV that you did because they were
yeah,
still playing videos,
yeah,
and that experience of waiting around and going, "Oh, when is my favorite video going to play?"
yeah.
We all, we have that, but obviously our experiences are also different. But um, Robby, this has been an amazing interview. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm so happy you have all those vivid memories of early MTV. But again, I want to thank you, and this has been great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's really been fun.